When President Richard Blackwood became First National Bank's most trusted financial leader, investors relied on him to protect their life savings and retirement funds. But when his cocaine addiction and money laundering schemes consumed him, he began stealing customer deposits for drug cartels and murdering bank employees who discovered his crimes, turning the bank vault into a deadly criminal operation. Before starting the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Now, let's get back to the video. The New York autumn rain streaked down the windows of First National Bank's executive floor as President Richard Blackwood organized falsified financial statements and cartel communication devices for what would become the most dangerous banking operation of his 26-year career as Wall Street's most experienced bank president and financial services specialist. At 56 years old, Richard had established himself as Manhattan's premier banking executive, controlling customer deposits worth billions and international financial cooperation that attracted money laundering organizations, drug cartels, and organized crime syndicates who valued his access to banking systems and his reputation for facilitating the most secretive financial transactions affecting international money transfers and criminal enterprise coordination. Richard's executive office occupied the top floor of First National Bank's Manhattan headquarters, featuring secure meeting rooms, encrypted financial communication systems, and transaction coordination facilities that allowed him to oversee the bank's most sensitive financial operations, while maintaining absolute control over customer deposits worth billions in international banking cooperation, affecting financial services and monetary policy decisions throughout the global banking community. The interior of Richard's office reflected his mastery of international banking and his understanding of financial industry expectations for both service excellence and absolute discretion during the most critical monetary decisions affecting customer financial security, featuring walls displaying banking achievements from prestigious institutions, photographs of successful financial partnerships, and testimonials from grateful corporate clients whose business ventures had succeeded through his banking expertise and strategic financial guidance, affecting investment opportunities and economic development. But beneath Richard's reputation for banking excellence lay a dangerous combination of cocaine addiction, systematic money laundering, and calculated murder that had transformed his banking operations into criminal enterprises where threatening employees and suspicious investigators met their fate through financial accidents and witness elimination during vulnerable banking procedures and customer service activities. "Good morning, President Blackwood," said Vice President Sarah Martinez, arriving for her weekly executive meeting about ongoing federal audits and customer account oversight that required Richard's authorization for large transactions and international banking cooperation affecting financial compliance standards. Sarah had recently discovered irregular transaction patterns and had begun questioning Richard's explanations about banking protocols that seemed to bypass normal federal oversight processes and financial regulatory requirements. "Good morning, Vice President Martinez," Richard replied with the banking authority and financial expertise that had made him legendary among Wall Street professionals who viewed him as both financial innovator and customer service specialist, capable of managing complex international transactions through sophisticated banking coordination and strategic financial partnerships affecting monetary policy and economic stability throughout global financial markets. Sarah had become Richard's most dangerous subordinate, not because of her demanding banking requirements or her international coordination responsibilities, but because of her recent discovery of unauthorized money transfers and her growing awareness of the laundering operation that Richard had been conducting while supposedly providing legitimate banking services for customer deposits and financial investment programs. What Sarah didn't know was that Richard had been systematically stealing customer funds and murdering bank personnel for over 4 years, using his president authority and access to banking systems to coordinate money laundering operations while eliminating anyone who discovered his financial crimes or threatened to expose his criminal exploitation of banking resources for cartel coordination and organized crime facilitation affecting customer deposits and federal banking oversight. Richard's transformation from respected banker to calculating killer had begun 6 years earlier, when his cocaine addiction had escalated from social use during high-pressure banking events to daily dependency that consumed his substantial executive salary and forced him into relationships with money laundering cartels who offered enormous payments for access to banking systems and customer deposits for illegal financial processing, affecting international crime operations and drug trafficking coordination. His addiction cost over $6,000 per day, while his access to First National Bank's financial systems provided unprecedented opportunities for coordinating money laundering operations that processed hundreds of millions in criminal profits through legitimate customer accounts and international banking transfers, affecting global financial security and criminal enterprise facilitation. His criminal activities escalated when several bank employees and federal oversight personnel discovered evidence of unauthorized financial transfers and threatened to report their suspicions to banking regulators and federal law enforcement agencies, investigating money laundering targeting customer deposits and banking systems throughout Manhattan financial institutions. Richard murdered his first victim, a suspicious bank auditor who detected irregular transaction records by orchestrating a subway accident using cartel assets that appeared to be public transportation incident rather than premeditated assassination designed to protect money laundering operations. The success of his first murder convinced Richard that eliminating threatening bank personnel and suspicious oversight investigators was both necessary for protecting his laundering operation and achievable given his complete banking authority and his ability to coordinate with cartel networks who could stage accidents and eliminate witnesses while providing plausible cover stories involving urban hazards and metropolitan dangers affecting financial district personnel. Over the following 4 years, Richard murdered 13 additional individuals using various cartel methods in banking coordination that took advantage of his president authority, his access to criminal networks during vulnerable financial meetings, and his ability to stage deaths as urban accidents or cartel targeting that occurred during routine banking activities with personnel who had access to sensitive information that could expose money laundering operations. His victims had been carefully selected based on their discovery of his criminal activities, their potential cooperation with federal authorities, or their knowledge of banking systems that could expose his cartel coordination and systematic theft of customer deposits affecting banking oversight and financial regulatory compliance. His victims included Auditor Patricia Williams, a federal banking investigator who had discovered evidence of systematic money laundering and whose bank consultation had resulted in fatal mugging staged by cartel assets during routine financial inspection. Manager David Foster, who had reported suspicious transaction activities and whose First National meeting had ended in fatal robbery using weapons obtained through cartel networks. And Agent Jennifer Martinez, a federal financial crimes investigator who had been tracking money laundering and whose bank inspection had resulted in fatal exposure to concentrated drugs disguised as banking equipment contamination affecting federal oversight of financial operations. The money laundering operation had become extraordinarily sophisticated, with Richard coordinating the systematic processing of cartel profits through customer accounts and international banking transfers that provided legitimate financial cover for criminal money while generating enormous profits through banking fees and transaction coordination affecting international financial markets and criminal enterprise operations. The money laundering operation had become extraordinarily sophisticated, with Richard coordinating the systematic processing of cartel profits through customer accounts and international banking transfers that provided legitimate financial cover for criminal money while generating enormous profits through banking fees and transaction coordination affecting international financial markets and criminal enterprise operations. International wire transfers served as primary money laundering operations, with Richard personally coordinating the movement of cartel profits through customer accounts and foreign banking partnerships that processed criminal money through legitimate financial channels while avoiding federal detection and banking regulatory oversight, affecting international financial cooperation and monetary policy coordination. The most disturbing aspect of the operation was the systematic theft of customer deposits and retirement funds, with Richard coordinating with cartel organizations to identify wealthy bank customers whose accounts could be exploited for money laundering while their legitimate deposits were stolen and replaced with criminal money affecting their financial security and retirement planning. Multiple bank customers had lost their life savings as a direct result of Richard's financial crimes, with retirement accounts and investment portfolios being systematically depleted and replaced with cartel money that appeared legitimate in banking records but represented stolen customer funds, affecting their financial stability and economic security. President Blackwood, I need to discuss serious concerns about money laundering and reports of financial crimes connected to your banking operations, said FBI Special Agent Maria Rodriguez of the Bureau's Financial Crimes Division, arriving at Richard's office carrying federal warrants to inspect his banking procedures and interview him about suspicious financial activities. Special Agent Rodriguez specialized in investigating banking crimes and had developed expertise in recognizing patterns of money laundering and financial exploitation affecting banking institutions throughout Manhattan Financial District. Special Agent Rodriguez's investigation represented an existential threat to Richard's criminal operation, as her federal financial crimes expertise and access to banking investigation databases could expose the systematic money laundering operations and connect him to multiple suspicious deaths during banking activities and financial meetings affecting federal oversight and banking law enforcement cooperation. Special Agent Rodriguez, I think there may be some misunderstanding about complex international banking and the unfortunate reality that financial district personnel sometimes experience urban hazards despite advanced security protocols and federal cooperation measures, Richard said, while discreetly activating a concealed alarm system that would summon corrupt bank employees who were part of his cartel network for emergency elimination of federal law enforcement threats. Perhaps we could discuss these concerns in our secure transaction facility, where I can demonstrate the banking procedures that might explain these tragic urban incidents. International banking involves complex financial operations that might appear suspicious to those unfamiliar with global monetary transfers and cartel financial coordination affecting banking security operations. Special Agent Rodriguez agreed to examine Richard's banking procedures, not realizing that the president was leading her to a secure facility where previous murders had been committed and where Richard planned to coordinate her elimination using cartel assets while staging the scene as federal agent targeting that occurred during financial investigation, providing cover for her elimination while appearing to be cartel retaliation rather than deliberate murder by a banker protecting his money laundering operations. But Richard's carefully planned murder of the federal agent was about to be prevented by the unexpected arrival of federal banking oversight officers who had been investigating financial irregularities and had identified connections to his systematic money laundering activities affecting banking operations and customer deposit security. Federal Banking Inspector Michael Torres had been conducting comprehensive investigation into banking corruption and cartel infiltration that exploited bank president authority to facilitate money laundering and eliminate potential witnesses to financial crimes affecting federal oversight and banking law enforcement cooperation. Inspector Torres specialized in investigating banking crimes and had developed expertise in tracking financial institutions that compromised customer security, while conducting systematic elimination of threats to money laundering operations affecting banking integrity and financial operational security. The federal investigation had been initiated by reports from multiple banking oversight agencies and financial crimes task forces, who noticed patterns of suspicious transaction processing and bank personnel deaths, suggesting cartel networks were infiltrating banking institutions to facilitate money laundering while eliminating witnesses through sophisticated methods disguised as urban accidents. Bank President Richard Blackwood, I'm Inspector Torres with Federal Banking Oversight, he announced as he entered the transaction facility where Richard was coordinating Special Agent Rodriguez's elimination. I have federal warrants for your investigation on charges of systematic money laundering, banking corruption, customer fraud, and multiple counts of first-degree murder related to your exploitation of banking authority for criminal operations affecting customer security and financial integrity. Richard's reaction to the federal oversight intervention was desperate attempts to maintain his banking credibility, as he realized that federal agents and financial investigators had been investigating his laundering activities and connected them to systematic bank personnel murders and cartel coordination affecting banking operations. Special Agent Rodriguez looked stunned as she realized how close she had come to being murdered by the banker she was investigating for financial crimes. Her banking investigation had not only exposed Richard's laundering and murder operation, but also prevented her own death at hands of a killer using banking authority as cover for systematic elimination of federal agents and financial crime investigation threats. The comprehensive investigation that followed Richard's arrest revealed the full scope of his criminal enterprise and sophisticated methods he had developed to exploit banking authority for systematic money laundering and murder. Forensic analysis of Richard's banking operations revealed extensive evidence of his laundering activities, including sophisticated financial processing systems for coordinating cartel money transfers, detailed records of customer fund theft worth hundreds of millions, and comprehensive files containing banking information that had been exploited to facilitate money laundering operations and customer fraud affecting federal oversight and financial security cooperation. The investigation uncovered Richard's connections to international drug cartels who had been coordinating banking infiltration and money laundering operations while using his president access to process criminal profits and eliminate witnesses through sophisticated methods disguised as urban accidents and financial district targeting affecting bank personnel and federal investigators. Most disturbing was discovery of Richard's detailed knowledge of banking security systems and cartel operational methods, which he had used to develop increasingly sophisticated approaches for laundering money while eliminating bank personnel who discovered his criminal operations or threatened to expose his cartel coordination activities affecting customer security and banking integrity. Bank President Richard Blackwood was ultimately convicted of 14 counts of first-degree murder, systematic money laundering, banking corruption, customer fraud, conspiracy with drug cartels, and numerous other charges related to his exploitation of banking authority for criminal operations affecting customer security and financial integrity. The conviction sent unprecedented shockwaves throughout Manhattan Financial District, prompting immediate reforms in banking oversight, financial monitoring, and executive addiction prevention measures designed to protect customer deposits from exploitation by corrupted banking officials involved in criminal activities. Several other bank presidents and financial officials were investigated for similar criminal activities, resulting in enhanced oversight of banking operations and new requirements for transaction verification, customer protection monitoring, and federal cooperation, measures making it difficult for cartel networks to exploit banking authority for systematic money laundering operations. Special Agent Rodriguez and Inspector Torres received recognition for their collaborative investigation and became specialists in banking crime investigation, developing new techniques for identifying money laundering operations and protecting customer security from exploitation by corrupted banking officials. Vice President Sarah Martinez and other surviving bank personnel required extensive financial audit review and psychological counseling to overcome trauma of learning that their trusted president had been systematically stealing customer deposits and murdering bank employees while exploiting his authority for cartel activities. The case prompted comprehensive changes in banking regulation, including mandatory federal oversight and addiction screening for bank presidents with customer deposit authority, enhanced monitoring of financial operations and transaction processing, real-time federal supervision of international banking activities, and new reporting procedures for suspicious banking activities involving customer security violations. Richard's conviction led to increased cooperation between banking oversight agencies and federal organizations investigating money laundering, with new protocols designed to identify banking systems that might be exploited for systematic criminal activities while eliminating witnesses to financial corruption and customer security violations. 5 years after Richard's conviction and life imprisonment, First National Bank continued implementing safeguards designed to protect customer deposits from bank presidents who might abuse their positions for criminal purposes, affecting financial security and federal oversight. The banker who had promised to protect customer investments and maintain financial integrity had instead used his banking authority to commit systematic money laundering and murder while exploiting financial resources for cartel coordination, threatening foundations of customer security and banking integrity. Bank President Richard Blackwood's final transaction had been permanently processed by comprehensive investigation of federal and banking justice, where he would serve multiple life sentences without possibility of parole, proving that even financial officials who attempted to exploit their banking authority for criminal gain could be identified, investigated, and brought to justice when dedicated federal agencies worked together to protect customer security from predatory banking corruption. The banker's final transaction had concluded with his permanent removal from financial service, serving as lasting reminder that those entrusted with customer deposits must never abuse that sacred responsibility, and that banking officials who would exploit customer trust and financial authority for criminal gain will ultimately face full consequences of their betrayal of banking integrity and customer security. Thank you very much for listening. Please let us know what you think of this story in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any other videos.